All right, it's 8:35. We're going to go ahead and get started. I was expecting someone today, but we'll see if they show up. Uh, in lieu of any questions, we are here to help you understand your home, give you some hints about your home, maintenance tips, uh, probably hang out for about 15 minutes, give or take a little bit, and help you understand your home. So I'm Richard Smith with Caliber Home Inspections, inspecting homes and protecting dreams. So I have a maintenance checklist that we go through, and we finished a lot of what we have for winter, and I'm going to hit fireplaces. There's a number of things on fireplaces that are interesting. I'm going to call it fireplaces. It's mainly chimneys, but there is a fireplace out there that you flip a switch and it turns on, and that on does not necessarily mean a flame. It's a picture of a flame, and it's an electric fireplace. It's There's no chimney involved, no gas, no real flame, and they can attach heaters to it, and that's just a decorative appliance. It's not really called a fireplace because there's no fire involved, but it's a decorative appliance in the way we report it. There's nowhere to put the wood, so you can't mistake it for a real fireplace. Then there are several other types, most of which are nowadays are the prefab type, prefabricated in a factory, and then they bring them in and set them up, and they're all designed very specific with very specific dimensions and flues, and you assemble the flue on site when the builder's constructing it. But so there could be some problems with the flue. We do a type 1 inspection, and that's we open up the flue and we stick our head in there and see if there's any evidence of problem. And that could be a wasp nest, a bird's nest, debris, rust, creosote, anything that could become a hazard when you burn a fire. I always thought if you had a wasp nest in there, just get a big fire started and burn them out. Bird's nest, you might want to clean depending on how big the bird's nest is. Sometimes you can't see up to the flue cap. That's what I like to look at. I've looked up a flue before, and that round cylindrical flue that you're looking up, it just looks like you're looking through a straw, big straw. And then one time I had seen it disconnected, and I saw a gap in there. So you're putting a great deal of heat, smoke, and maybe some hot embers and sparks into your attic or your chimney flue. So uh, that was, of course, a very detrimental design, and it was in a house that had burned fires in the flue before. So uh, it was a it was something they had to address quickly. Now there are uh, ventless fireplaces, and that is if you look in where your damper would be, and it's just a piece of flat metal, and there's no gaps and nothing to open. That's considered a ventless fireplace. They are fine. They heat up your house greatly. You probably here in Georgia won't be using them for any length of time because they'll just heat up your house and it'll run you out. You'll have the windows open in the dead of winter. So they are decorative. They don't put out a big flame, but they do create a lot of heat. They do, because there is no vent, they do create carbon monoxide that gets into the house. If you have a carbon monoxide detector kind of close to the fireplace, it might even go off. Uh, they recommend that you don't run your ventless fireplace any more than 3 hours per every 2-day period, or or I think it's 10 hours for a week. Uh, they put out a lot of heat, and if you lost power, you're happy to have it, but you really can't use them. In Canada, they have outlawed them because Canada, well, they've got a real problem with heat. And they want to use every bit of energy they have to heat their home. They're 100% efficient. All the heat that you put in there with the flame actually goes into the house. It's good, but there are some health risks because you don't have any venting. You have all the carbon monoxide getting into the house, and headaches, dizziness, and breathing problems are all symptoms. Uh, Usually, if you let it go too long and there's carbon monoxide in the house, you get really tired. And if you have carbon monoxide flues um, in your crawl spaces, or you're inside your house somewhere else and they're disconnected and you're putting a lot of carbon monoxide into the house, they don't really smell like anything. That's why you need a detector. The the gases that come in, they might give you a little headache, but they really just make you drowsy, make you go to sleep, and then you don't wake up. You hear about that every once in a while in the old uh, homes that have gas, and usually it's because of the water heater in the house, the condensation that forms in the flue of the water heater will rust out the flue, and then you get a lot of carbon monoxide in the house. If the flue was bumped off the top of the water heater, then you get a lot of carbon monoxide in the house also. So if you have any gas burning appliances, you're supposed to have a carbon monoxide detector. Um, so we got flues, ventless, flues that have bends. They have like a little 45 and then another 45 to get it up the flue, and certain designs on chimneys. You can look up there, but you can only see a couple feet, and then you see the bend, and that's all you can really inspect. But it'll give you an indication if there's a local problem. But if it's up higher in the flue, as in a bird's nest, well, then you run into other problems. Uh, if you do have a lot of creosote or anything built up in there, you should get a chimney sweep. There are differences between uh, companies that can clean your chimney and a chimney sweep. Chimney sweep is a license designation, and they can do a type 2 and type 3 inspection. They just send a scope down there, and actually it's like a little GoPro, and you can see the whole flue. I do recommend those almost 100% of the time when you have a masonry fireplace. Those have terracotta tile flues, and they're kind of rectangular or square shaped. They go up and they crack over time. And if they do crack, how big of a crack is detrimental to the fireplace flue? I don't know. If you have a crack, they should probably seal it, and they can seal it. They drop a tube, kind of a membrane down in the chimney flue that's flexible, and then they'll cap one end and they'll blow in there, and it expands, and the heat is a chemical reaction, and it changes, and it puts a liner. It's kind of like wiping a liner onto your flue, and it'll protect the flue. Probably after that, you probably have to have it inspected, type 2 inspection, once a year, once every other year, I guess. But masonry fireplaces are a dying art. They're handcrafted on site. Uh, they um, Usually, if you get to masonry fireplace on new construction, usually the house will start near 1.5 or $2 million homes. They have the masonry fireplaces. Back in the day, masonry fireplaces were basically all they had, so they were expensive to build, time consuming, slows down the construction, but it's a very nice warm centerpiece to living room, uh, the main gathering area. So there are a few things you should know about. I had a problem with my chimney drawing. You build a fire and it was getting smoky in the house. I said, it was a new fireplace. I said, this has got to be working right. It's all to manufacturer specs, and I started double guessing myself. I had a chimney company put it in, and I started measuring for the codes again. I knew they were reasonable. They have to be a certain height over the roof, anything flammable. They have to be a certain height over the chimney box to create a draw as the heat rises. So a good general practice is heating up the flue before you get a big fire built. Sometimes people get paper and put it up the flue and just get some heat up in the flue, so it creates a heat rising draw effect, so you get the smoke to go up the chimney instead of in the house. I usually just look up there and make sure it's not creosote dirty, and the flue's open, and I'll crack the front door a little bit or a window, and I'll build a rip roaring fire to get the fire heat going up. It creates the hot flue and then creates a draw. And I was doing that on the first few, and I was getting smoke in the house. I couldn't figure out what it was for the longest time. And we noticed that if you have a bathroom vent fan on, the houses nowadays are tight, so they don't draw from the windows and from the walls and from the floors, and the house is all wrapped tight. Building construction, you want to keep the conditioned air that you paid for. So they build the houses tight, but then your chimney has a hard time drafting because it needs fresh air. There is a fresh air vent on the chimney. Usually it's not enough. So if you have your bathroom vent fan on, that's blowing air out of the house. So it blows air out of the house, and it's got to take it from somewhere. So it takes it from the chimney, and then it pulls the smoke back into the house. So worse than the bathroom vent fans is the dryer. When the dryer dries clothes, it just blows a lot of air out of the house, and it just sucks air right down your flue if you have your flue open, and it sucks all the smoke into the house. So when you want to burn your real wood fireplace, then you need to turn your dryer off. You need to time it so you're not using your dryer and your bathroom vent fans. So that is something that we found. Now you have that open flue. You have to be careful because that's where it's going to draw air from easily. You should close that flue if you want to save your energy in the house. We usually don't during the winter. If it was really cold and we weren't going to burn our fireplace, then we'd probably close it. And I'd put a little ribbon on there, making sure I knew it was closed when I set up the fire for next time. So in inspecting homes, there is something on older homes called a whole house fan, or an attic ventilator fan. And it's a ceiling fan built into the ceiling. It's not one that drops down and just has a decorative wind in the house and air circulation and so forth. No, this sucks out all the air in your house and blows it out through your attic. Clears out your attic. In the day, that was nice, but over time, you realize you're bringing in a lot of allergens and moisture that create mold, and it's kind of a thing of the past. If you didn't have mold allergies and pollen allergies in the spring and the fall, it's actually a nice thing to do. You create a great circulation in the house. You open your windows, you open your front door, you leave your screen closed, and hopefully you don't pull too many mosquitoes in the house, and it just sucks everything up the ceiling and out of your attic. Cools off your attic so you don't have that radiating heat coming off your ceiling in the summer. Great idea. Great idea. But when you're testing a whole house fan, you really, really, really need to close your flue, or have your front door wide open, your window wide open. I learned this from experience. If the chimney flue is open and there's a lot of soot in the chimney and a lot of ashes in the chimney, you turn your whole house fan on and it just sucks everything out right down the chimney, blows ashes all over that living room. Yep, that was a big cleaning bill. And you also have um you also have the risk of opening up a flue when you're going to inspect it. We want to make sure the flue works. We want to look up the flue to see if it's dirty, see if there's any obstructions or anything that would be a problem. So when you open up a flue, we take a picture of it closed so we have it documented, and then we open it up, take a picture of it open. But when you open it, you should really open it slow. There's creosote that builds up, and if it's hadn't been open in a while, it just drops down on top of that lid. You open it fast and you stir up wind. You have that creosote that kind of is like a big pillow of dust that's resting in your firebox. One time I opened it up, maybe not slow enough. The owner was in the room, the buyer was in the room. They had this beautiful white furniture. They had a white carpet. And I opened it up and a dead bird drops out, all this soot, and it was just all over everything. I'm just trying to hold it back. It got all over the hearth. It barely got on the carpet, but boy, I thought I was going to have to clean that whole house up. There was another time we had in our chimney, the cap, there's a chimney and then there's a chimney top that keeps the chimney itself from being rained on and in. And then there's a cap that goes over the flue and that has to breathe, and you're supposed to have a screen around it so birds don't get in. And it's a spark arrestor also. And if any sparks make it that high, then they don't go out and land on dry leaves or anything like that. So this happened in our own house. When I was growing up, we had birds in the chimney flue. And my dad wanted to see if he could get them out. And he was going to burn a little fire in there to just heat them up and drive them out. And he opened it up and there were more birds in there and they were full of soot and they were flying. There were about 5 birds in our house and they were flying around, knocking into furniture, getting up on shelves, dropping everything everywhere and getting caught in shelves and flapping their wings, soot all over the place. So yeah, that was a big cleaning bill also. And another little story, and I think it's from smoke. This is from smoke. This isn't from a chimney. We had a party, and back in the day, there were a lot of smokers. This is back in the 70s or 80s, 70s, I think, late 70s. And my parents had people over and there were some smokers and it was a birthday party or something. We had helium balloons and they had floated up to the ceiling and there were kind of little streamers hanging down. It was a nice little birthday kind of look and the color. But with smoke is just in the air. And for some reason, it must have reacted with the escaping helium, those helium balloons, not the Mylar type. I don't think they had Mylar back then, but they have just the regular, I forget what you call it, but they're those real flexible rubbery balloons. They had
Latex balloons.
latex. That's it. They had they were being squeezed. It squeezes out all the helium, so they last for a day, maybe 2. And then if they go up to the high ceiling, you just wait. They come down in a couple days. But the helium was being pushed out of the latex. Maybe it had something to do with the latex too. I didn't research it. But with all the cigarette smoke and the latex and the helium mixing with it, the balloons came down, but it left these black rings on the ceiling all over where all the balloons were. So we painted the ceiling on that one too. Live and learn. These are just stories. Um, let's see. I think that's it for my chimney stories. If anybody else has a chimney story, that'd be interesting to hear. But waiting for someone else to show up. Thought we were going to have a couple people today. So there it is. You can always go to our website and see these recordings. And we are Caliber Home Inspections, probably the best home advocate you could choose. Maintenance tips, any questions you have, questions and answers, we're here to help. So
And we are inspecting homes and protecting dreams.
that's us. So we'll see you next time. Join us every Monday morning. Thanks.